Okay, today we're learning a really important skill. You're going to see this forever in math, okay? Factoring trinomials. Okay, factoring trinomials. This first thing that I have up here is a review. So multiplying is the opposite of factoring, all right? These are opposite skills here. So when we factor, we're going to end up with this right here. When we multiply, it's just FOIL, right? You guys remember FOIL and how to multiply these. So if I multiply the first times the first, Evan, what do I get? X squared. Ella, if I multiply the outside terms here, what do I get? Good, negative 4x. And Nate, the inside terms?
Plus 3x.
Good. And Bethany, the last terms? Nice. Okay, and then we just combine these middle terms right here. So Isaac, what do I get in the middle? Good. Those add to negative 1x. So when we factor tractor, we actually start with this, and we want to work our way back up to this. So how does that last number, okay, so notice the negative 12. How does this negative 12 compare to these two numbers? Like, how do we know, how do we get from there to there? What's 4, or yeah, go ahead. 1 has to be negative because we're multiplying to get a negative 12. That's true. So it has to be a positive times a negative. Okay. Those two numbers also multiply to be that number, right? And how about this middle number? How did those two numbers get to this middle number? It's not multiplication, yeah? What's positive 3 minus 4? So put a little note here. This middle number is when you add these two numbers. Put a note on your notes. And this last number is when you multiply those two numbers. So if I want to factor the trinomial, let's say we started with this. Okay? So we start with a quadratic equation. That's when we have x squared, right? And it says factor the trinomial. We're going to go backwards. So I have two sets of parentheses here. These two spaces, these first two spaces, have to multiply to give me x squared. So what would go in my two spaces? X times x. That would give me x squared. Okay? And then every time you do these two numbers have to multiply to give me negative 12 and add to give me negative 1. So we just did these, right? So it has to be a negative 4 and a positive 3. Those numbers multiply to negative 12 and add to negative 1. Order doesn't matter. So if you put the plus 3 in the first set of parentheses and the minus 4 in the second set of parentheses, that's fine because we can multiply those things in either order and get the same answer. So let's start with one where we don't have our answer to start with, okay? So it's going to say something that says factor. So we're going to factor the quadratic. So write it down. I have x squared minus x minus 42. What number is in front of x right here that we don't see? 1. So every time we're looking for two numbers. Actually, let's start with this. Let's start with our two sets of parentheses. Okay? So I'm trying to find the opposite. So what would multiply to give me that trinomial? So in the first two spaces, these two things would have to multiply to give me x squared. So what goes here and here? Yeah, x and x. Okay, x times x. Now, the last two things here and here have to multiply to give me negative 42 and add to negative 1. Some of you know this off the top of your head, right? Some of you don't know. Let's start with everything that multiplies to 42, okay? So I'm going to list it out. We can use 1 times 42. That would multiply to 42, right? 2 times what? 21. 3 times 14. 4 doesn't go in. 5 doesn't go in. What's the last one? 6 times 7. Okay, those are all the things that multiply to be 42, right? Now, we have to have some combination of numbers that add to -1. If I add or subtract these, can I get -1? No. If I add or subtract these, can I get -1? No, I get like 23 and 19, right? How about these? If I add them, that's 17. If I subtract them, that's 11. Nope. How about these? Yes. How can I add to get -1, you guys? Which number has to be negative in order to add to -1? 7. Okay. Right here. Now think about it. Make sure that they multiply to be -42. What's 6 times -7? Right. As long as one's negative, they multiply to -42. And make sure they add to -1. What's a positive 6 minus 7? -1. Okay? So in either order, doesn't matter, but we need a positive 6 and a -7. Right? How could I check this to make sure I got it right? Okay, we could check it by FOILing. Let's do that quickly. What's x times x? X squared. What's x times -7? What's 6 times x? What's 6 times -7? What do those middle terms add to here? Is that how we started this party? Yes. Okay. So what is my answer? This guy right here. That's the answer. All right, let's try another one. Factor tractor. X squared minus 14x minus 15. Write that down. So when it says factor, always start with 2 sets of parentheses. Say to yourself, self, what times what is x squared? Okay, good. So I can put an x and I can put an x. X times x is x squared. Then self, what multiplies to -15 and adds to -14? Let's say we don't know. Say we don't know. Some of you guys do. Okay. What are all of our options for 15? What times what is an option? Isaac? 1 times 15. Riley, what's another one? 3 times 5. Are there any other choices? No. Okay. So Julia, which of those could add or subtract to 14? So you can add these to 14? That would be magical. I can add those to 8, but I don't know how to get 14 out of those. Okay, Caleb, what about you? Okay, 1 and 15 would work. Why are you guys laughing? What did I miss? Okay, 1 and 15 would work, but you guys, they have to add to -14. So Jackie, which one has to be negative in order to add to -14? The 15. So my answer is +1 minus 15. Okay. Let's try the next one. Oh, we have 2 more. So x squared plus x minus 42. So there's really a 1 in front that we don't see. So I'm going to start with my 2 sets of parentheses because we're factor tractoring. And Sophie, what goes here and here? The x's. So Josh, we're looking for 2 numbers that multiply to be what? -42. And Nico, add to be what? Not an x. The number in front of x. They have to add to 1. Okay. So they have to multiply to -42 and they have to add to 1. So Dylan, do you know the 2 numbers off the top of your head? So 42, 1 times 42 is an option. If you add or subtract those, can you get 1? What do you get if you add them? 43. What do you get if you subtract them? 41. Okay, what's another choice? Okay, 6 times 7 is another choice. If I want to add to 1, which one has to be negative? Okay, because then it adds to +1, right? -6 plus 7. So my only choice is -6 and positive 7. You can have this in the other order, okay? This entire thing can be here, that thing can be there. You can have x plus 7 and x minus 6. But that's the only two numbers that multiply to negative 42 and add to positive 1, okay? Let's try another one. So write that down. Negative 5x plus x squared plus 6. So it's kind of out of order here. So the first thing we need to do, Ben, what do you think? You want to put x's first? But before that, what should we do? What's wrong with it? Why does it look weird? Yeah, Andrew. Yeah, we need it to be in descending by exponent order. So the x squared's first, then the minus 5x, then the 6. Now, then, we can do what you're talking about. We can put these two numbers here, or our parentheses and our x and our x. So, Riley, we're looking for two numbers that multiply to be what? Okay? They're always going to multiply to be this last number here, 6, and EV add to be what? Just negative 5, okay? So all of our options, because you have to be careful. This one has a trick in it. You think you have it, but you don't on this one. Okay? You've got it. All right. So, Sophia, what all multiplies to 6? 1 times 6 and, okay, 3 times 2. All right. But be careful here. So, who thinks they know what adds to negative 5 and multiplies to positive 6? Leah, what do you think? Oh my goodness, that was really smart of you. Negative and negative, okay? Because what's a negative times a negative, you guys? A positive. So it adds to a negative 5. It adds to a bigger negative, right? But it multiplies to a positive 6. So this one has two negatives. We didn't have one like that yet. But that's how we're going to multiply to positive 6, add to negative 5. So that one factors like so. You guys packing up already? What are you guys doing?